And the Orthodox saints who were slaves, there's Saint Andrew of Constantinople, Saint Emilianos of Bulgaria, Saint Moses the Hungarian, Saint Callistus, Saint Boniface, all of them were slaves. And Saint Patrick, that's right, the saint loved by Irishmen around the world. Every time St. Patrick's Day rolls around, you're celebrating and honoring a white man who spent years of his life as a slave. These are the people we honor. These are the people we look up to. They were Christians, they were slaves, and they were white. So please explain to me, why should I be ashamed of the color of my skin? Why should I apologize for so-called white privilege? Was it white privilege that drove millions of Russians into serfdom and slavery for hundreds of years? Was it white privilege that enslaved the Irish? Was it white privilege that made Will Smith one of America's most highly paid actors today? If you look at the 20 highest paid professional athletes in the world, the majority of them are black. Is that because of white privilege? According to the U.S. Department of Justice, blacks commit violent crimes against whites far more often than whites commit such crimes against blacks. Is this an example of white privilege? 12% of the American population is black, 11% of Congress is black, 11% of the Supreme Court is black, and during the 41 years of my life so far, 19% of those years have had a black American president. Is this evidence of white privilege? Was it white privilege that got Ilhan Omar into Congress, Clarence Thomas onto the Supreme Court, and twice got Barack Obama elected as President of the United States? Was it white privilege that sold blacks into slavery in the first place? No, it wasn't. In Africa, blacks were kidnapping other blacks and selling them into slavery. And which is worse, purchasing or being the dealer? Being a buyer or being the one who kidnapped them in the first place? In the drug world, which is worse, a user or a drug dealer? Being a user is bad and it can get you into trouble, but being a drug dealer is much more serious and results in a longer prison sentence. So when it comes to slavery, why are we only focusing on the users while we let the dealers go scot-free? And this is one of the many ways you can tell that Black Lives Matter as a movement is either ignorant or hypocritical. Why aren't they asking blacks in Africa to get down on their knees and apologize for their ancestors kidnapping people and selling them into slavery? Either they're ignorant and they don't know history, or else they do know history and they're just hypocrites who are covering it up. Which is it? Because it's a plain fact. Black Lives Matter is not demanding anything of blacks in Africa. Black Lives Matter isn't telling Africans to get down on their knees, and they're not telling them to apologize. The only people they terrorize are whites, and the only reason they do it is because of the color of our skin. Now, if they start being more consistent, then I may take them a little more seriously. If they start asking African blacks to get on their knees and apologize, then they won't look so hypocritical when they ask whites to do the same thing. Just like I said earlier, these Orthodox saints who were slaves, and also the millions of Orthodox Christians today who are descendants of slaves, are our brothers and sisters. They're part of the body of Christ. So we have to stop treating them like second-class citizens. None of the blacks in America today have ever been slaves, and none of the whites in America today have ever owned one. My ancestors lived in Kansas and Michigan, and they never owned slaves. A number of blacks in America are not descended from slaves because they came to America within the past few decades, long after slavery was abolished. And many whites in America are the descendants of slaves because many of the whites in America are Slavic immigrants from Russia, Ukraine, Serbia, and other bordering countries. So are we going to take all of these facts into account and make it a fair playing field? Or are we just going to keep hating people because they are white, judging them merely because of the color of their skin? You have nothing to be ashamed of. You have the skin color God gave you. Be grateful. Do not apologize to anyone for your skin color. Do not get on your knees because of your skin color. Be thankful for the great legacy that has been left over the past 2,000 years by numerous fellow Christians. Millions of them were whites who endured slavery themselves, and many of them even became saints. Stand tall, hold your head high, be thankful for this positive legacy, and do not be ashamed, because you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to apologize for.